So,
Okay. Fine.
mhm.
Hola compañeros, hoy presentamos aquí a Ricardo Kingsley Dunkley. Él es de Jamaica, pero actualmente reside en Austin, Texas, en Estados Unidos, ya que ejerce como Senior Program Manager en Microsoft, por lo que dirigiremos esta entrevista en cómo él ha llevado a cabo negociaciones en su trabajo y otras situaciones, además de algunos puntos clave para llevar a cabo una buena negociación. Hi Ricardo, how are you?
Good. How are you? Hi.
Great, great. Well, we are going to start with the first question. This is, do you have any business strategy? And if it exists, one, which is it?
Okay. Yes, as an organization, we have to have a business strategy because we have to have a goal that we're going to try to attain, whether it's monthly or quarterly or for the year. So the strategy for our business is to ensure that we have all the parts that are needed for the data centers in there whenever the engineering technicians go to the area to the storage to get parts, they are available. So we have something called a fill rate, which we try to maintain. We try to make sure that we maintain a 90% fill rate of the parts that we have, meaning 95% of the time when the guys go to get the parts, they are there and they're available.
Okay, great, great. We got it. Well, we'll continue with the second question. That is, what aspects do you have any business strategy? And if this exists, one, which is it? Oh, that's the first one. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the one I just
Yeah,
answered.
I confused. Well, I will got that. Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
What aspects do you consider for conducting a negotiation? That is like the time, the place, the industry. When you do a negotiation, where this is conducting for you?
Yeah, there are different things I have to negotiate actually. The first one is I have to negotiate with the team, the companies that provide us with these parts that we need. And also have to negotiate with internally with Microsoft with a different team to get some of the parts that are not working that well on what we call the quality case list. Now, with the first negotiation that I have to do which is with the companies, that is when we have parts that are not working so well, and we have to let them know, hey guys, these are not working well. You need to provide us with new parts as soon as possible, and so we can have them in our data center so the engineers can replace the ones that are broken. And the other thing I have to negotiate is with another team within Microsoft to let them know that, yeah, these parts are bad. So you need to investigate and find out why they're failing so we can let the manufacturers know or the suppliers know the reason why they're failing so that they can kind of take out those parts from the stock and send it back to the supplier so we can get better parts.
Okay, okay. So here you solve them like communicating, right? No,
Yes.
looking for a strategy or something like that in the continue, or how is it? You have a program and then you realize that that something is not working, and then you act, right? Is that
Yes, correct.
okay? Great. The third is, what do you do if the negotiation is not done as you planned? This is like that is you already have a strategy and you trading plan to offer, but the customer does not seems fair the price or something like that, and the plan or something in the case you change that plan at the end and the strategy to safety your customer, or simply leave that negotiation, or what do you do?
Well, we do not want to be in a situation where we have to change the information at the last minute for the customers. We want to be upfront as much as we can to let them know before we even start the business, saying, hey, this is what we want, this is what we're looking for from you. And this is what we need you to provide us with. And we have to be clear about that in the beginning so that everyone is on the same page. And not only that, but you have to listen to what the our suppliers are saying, because they also have important information that and rules and guidelines that we also need to follow. And so just talking back and forth and understanding each other and just collaborating with different teams if needed, because yeah, not all the time when we start a project and we're trying to get something done, everything is gonna happen and it's gonna be perfect, right? You have to just keep talking, right? If you set up a meeting now for an hour and nothing happens, you set up another one and you try to involve more people so that you can get different perspective from different areas about what the pain points are. The pain points are the issues that we're having. And then we discuss the best way to solve them collaboratively.
Okay, okay, great, great solution. So the five, sorry. What do you think is essential for a successful negotiation?
Great question. For a successful negotiation, well, they're kind of two different types of negotiation, really. There's the win-lose where one person win and the other person lose. That is not really not the best way to go about it, because you want to be happy for real, and you want the other person who you're working with to be happy. Well, then again, it depends on who is working the case, right? Because some people are like, hey, I want to win, I don't care if you lose or not.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're a good negotiator, you want to make sure that you're happy, the other person's happy, because you don't want to lose, and you would feel very bad if you lose. And also, you want the other person to feel good. So the win-win strategy in that case would be the best way to go about getting to a good solution. And win-win meaning we come to a compromise. If we start off by saying, all right, supplier, you're going to provide us with 10,000 parts, and we ask for 10,000 parts, and they say, no, they can't find 10,000, they only have 5,000. We can't just sit and say, you know what, I just want 10,000. I don't care where you're going to get it from. Make sure I get it by next week. You don't want to be like that. If they only say, okay, they'll have 5,000, you say, all right, 5,000 is good, but can you go to somewhere else and get maybe another 2,000 and add it to your 5,000 and give us maybe 7,000 or something, and try to figure out ways you can work around the problem, because not all problems will be solved with just one solution. Sometimes you have to come up with a combination of different solutions in order to get the things done, by also going through the win-win strategy.
Yeah, yeah, it's important to both win-win. That is the
Yeah,
best option, but sometimes it is not possible.
yeah,
Okay.
true.
The next one, how does culture influence a negotiation? This is like includes the language, the custom, the values. When you do a negotiation, if that those things involve or have something to do with the negotiation.
Yeah, culture is kind of tricky, because when you're trying to do business with someone from another country, you have to understand their culture first of all, because you might go in and you're talking to the people all from the other country, and they're not really understanding you the way you think they're understanding you, right? What I'm trying to say here is the language barrier can be an issue at times, meaning they speak English, but they're not 100% fluent. And they try to close the business. Now, in that situation, there's not a very difficult way to solve it. The easy way to solve that would be to get someone to come and translate the problem, translate what you're saying to both languages, so each person can understand each other, right? Because it's also important that the translator is very good at translating both languages. Like, so
I'm sorry.
hello,
Oh,
all right,
sorry.
can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Wait.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. You hear me?
That's fine.
Wait. Let me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Let me. Okay. How does culture influence a negotiation? That includes the language, the custom, the values that someone can have. From another country, you are from another country, so that can be influenced by for that or something like that.
Yeah, yes. This is also very important because, first of all, a language can be an issue where you're trying to do business with someone in a different country that speak a different language, and they're not understanding you, and you're not exactly understanding them. But in that situation, it's easy to solve the problem because you can just get someone to come in as a translator. And it's also very important that the translator is good at translating both languages efficiently so that each person can understand each other. And that way you can continue conducting the negotiations. But the only thing with that drawback with that is that it will take a longer time because you're going to talk speaking your language, then the translator is going to translate it, then the person is going to talk, translator is going to translate it to send and give you that information. So that's going to take a little bit longer. Negotiating that should take maybe 30 minutes is going to end up taking 1 hour. All right. So that's kind of one drawback from that. The other thing is culture. That is very important to understand. It's important to understand the culture of the people that you're talking to on the other side and for them to understand your culture, because you might go into a negotiation thinking that, okay, I want to be as fair as I possibly can, and you're thinking, all right, I'm gonna be nice to the people that I'm trying to negotiate with. But it might so happen that in that culture, they might think that you being nice is you actually being soft, and they can take advantage of you, right? And you, in a situation like that, it will not be good for you, right? And then again, you might go in a situation where you come in and you try to be as strong as you can, and they might think it's arrogance, and you do not want to ever come off of that as that. So that's why understanding the culture of the people that you're talking to on the other side of the line is understood, and you guys understand each other very well in order to collaborate and coordinate and get the job done efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, I guess only a middle thing between those that is soft and strong, right?
What's that?
That we have to make a middle thing between the being soft and in the negotiation.
Right, a middle ground, right? Exactly, yeah.
Right. So in this, have you negotiated to someone from another country out of the United States?
Yes.
Yeah, and it has been difficult to you to negotiate.
Yeah, because of the main thing is the language most times, because you're when you're talking to them and they're talking back to you, if they put a word or two in a place where it's not supposed to go, it means something different. Right?
Yeah, it can be.
And sometimes you're not sure if the person really is saying what, or really know what they're saying and mean exactly what they're saying. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then we might start, say, maybe writing up a contract or something, and then you send it to them and for them to sign, and they're like, oh wait, no, we did not agree to this. And you're thinking, well, that's what we spoke about. And that's because the way they said it and the way you wrote it, I mean, they they were thinking they were saying it right and they weren't.
It's
Right.
difficult.
So that can be long, confusing, drawn out, in some instances.
Okay, great. The next regarding the previous answer, how do you communicate with a customer who does not know how to speak your language? It's like using the translator, isn't it? It's like, is the better option that you think, or it can be another?
Yeah, communicating with someone and from another who speaks another language, it is getting easier nowadays because now they have an app where you can, I think Microsoft Teams really has it right now. I haven't used it yet, but I think they have a app where you can just speak in your language and it can translate into their language and they can just listen to what you're saying and then they can speak in their language, and but and the same way it will translate back into your language so you can understand them in real time.
Yeah, but it's long. It's better.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. How far are you willing to go, or have you willing to go to close a negotiation that will benefit you? This is
Right.
focusing you a little bit in Microsoft as program manager as you go.
Right. How far will I go? Well, yeah, there are kind of limits set to how much you can negotiate with the other person to, or the other the supplier, to get what you need. And when you get into a situation where you're you're in a stalemate where you're not there's no compromise. You're saying, okay, you need 10,000 units. They're saying, hey, we only have 5,000 and that's all you can get, and you really need your 10,000 and they only have five. In a situation like that where it, like you're asking, it can't, how far will I go to get it done? Well, the next thing I would do there, if I really need to get those 10,000, is I would escalate it to senior management, right? I would let the executives know, hey, we're trying to get 10,000 parts. They only have 5,000 for us, and we really need to get this as soon as possible. So I would have our executive come into the conversation and start and maybe talk with their executive. So we have the bigger executives talking now, and hopefully they, at times, sometimes, I mean, not all the time, you can really get what you want, right? So,
Mhm.
so they will talk, and because, and the reason why you would have the executives talk is because sometimes the we who work for those executives, we can only do so much. We can only say yes or no to some situation, depending on the situation we're in, right? And they can only say, all right, we can only give 5,000. There's no way they have the power to provide, say, 9,000. And maybe the executives can come in and say, okay, this is what we can do. We can either maybe lower the price for you guys because we understand you really need this, or they can maybe, like I said earlier, go somewhere else that their team below them did not know they could do. They could go somewhere else to get the parts that we need, so we can close the deal. So there are different ways to get it done, but it's also important, like I mentioned earlier, to tell the executive team that, hey, we need your help with the situations. They can come in and talk to the team on the other side so we can get the job done.
Okay, okay, great. I got it. So the next one, what do you do when a customer knows nothing about equipment and begins to question your prices and your service? This making harder to close the deal?
Well, yes, it kind of does make it harder to close a deal. But one thing is important when you're in such a situation is you want to go to the people that you're working with, or supplier or the customer, and say, this is what we have and this is what our competitors have. So Microsoft has this, Amazon has this, maybe IBM or Intel, they have this over here. All right. So that your customers can compare what we are providing versus price versus our competitors. And it's important in that case, in that situation, to be honest about everything. right? The pricing, what we're providing. Don't say, hey, we're providing you with 5 terabytes of information of storage for a penny per per byte, right? And then when we sign the contract, you change it to 5 cents or something like that. Right? Yeah. You don't want to be in a situation where you're not being honest with your customers, because it's very important to be upfront and create a stable base where your customer understand where you are and what you're providing at the price, and understand also what the competitors are providing, and to also make sure that those numbers that you put for your competitors are also honest, right, and truthful. That way they can make a good decision, and you and your customers will be comfortable with the whole negotiation process.
Okay, okay. Great. So never take an advantages with your situation and the other situation, right?
Yes, correct.
Great. The last one, could you tell us about any successful negotiation that you closed?
Okay. All right. So working here now. All right. So there are two things that I do really. The first is try to make sure that we get the parts in the data center, and the other thing is make sure that there's another team that works on the cases that we need to investigate, to make sure that there's something really bad going on with the different parts. Now, as far as the suppliers that I work with, there was a situation where Hynix had about how many parts? About 75,000 parts that failed, right? Memory, sorry, not memory, SSDs, solid state drives that failed, and we needed to have them replaced. So I had to go to Hynix and say, hey guys, we have 75,000 of your parts over here that failed. Now we need you guys to replace it as soon as possible. And of course, we're gonna need you to now pay for it because it's your job that failed and they're under warranty. And well, it took some back and forth talking with Hynix, because they were under the impression that we were not using the drives the way we're supposed to, the way they were designed to, right? And but of course we said no, we of course are using them the way they were designed to. So ultimately got to the position where I remember where we're asking for all 75,000 replaced, right? And I got them to, of course, provide us with most of the solid state drives. We didn't get to the whole 75,000 that we needed. They agreed to replacing 51,000 of the price, with no charge for us. So we don't have to worry about the cost of 50,000, which is about most of, which about 75% of all the drives, right? So they're replacing most of them. So that was good. That was good. So, and now we're trying to figure out. We're still actually in the conversation trying to figure out who is going to pay for the other 25,000, right? But so far we're successful in getting them to replace 50,000 out of the 75,000. All right, so that is good. There, that is I consider that one a success so far. So far so good.
Yeah.
And the other situation is we have data within our organization that we check to see which parts are failing, and there's another organization that has data that they check to see what parts are failing. Now, sometimes our data and their data does not say the same thing, because I would say, hey guys, I'm seeing where the memory drive, the memory cells, memory chips are failing much more than they're supposed to. And then they would check their data and it might show that no, it's not really failing as much as our data says. And in that case, they would tell me, you know what, no, we're not going to investigate to see what's going on with these DIMMs, these memory chips, because there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm seeing that there's something wrong with it. So we would go back and forth. I would say, yes, there's a problem. They said, no, there's not a problem. So, so over time, I said, okay, let's do this. Let's not complain about whose data is right, whose data is wrong. Why is it that yours is saying that and why mine is saying differently? But let's try to figure out how we can actually just investigate these situations. And we came to the compromise that if we see that there are these anything failing, or whether it's DIMMs, drives, motherboards failing at more than 3 data centers, because we have 300 data centers, about 300 data centers in the world, all over the world, right? So we came to the conclusion that if we have 3 data centers that are seeing failures, then the other team would investigate to see what is really going on with those parts.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so those are 2 different negotiations that I had to do within the past year or so, or less than a year.
Yeah, because at the end, or as I understand, it's like do anyone's fault, but at the end, everyone's fault because it create the problem for themselves. Is right. Like they are helping to each other, but don't have, I don't know how to say that. Like they help themselves between like a team, but making essential thing, like they win for those to not lose because they have lose already, right? With the parts that aren't working.
Well, yeah, we gotta have a win. We want to make sure everyone is happy, right?
Yeah, for the
so,
trust can be.
so yeah, in those cases, yeah, that we have a win-win situation, and that way everyone is happy.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Ricardo, for helping me and for tell us a little bit of your work and what you're doing in your work and the negotiation that you do. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, bye bye.
Bye.